the firing line. I'm just going to give you some names. You tell me what you think about them. And of course, the very first people I mention are Ron and Don Wright.
Heat magnets. Heat magnets drew nothing but money, and they were legit badasses.
With Ron, is it Ron that was in Smoky Mountain?
Yeah, Ron was this one.
Yeah, I've never seen the footage where he's been in the wheelchair for so long and then miraculously he gets out of it. But I mean, were you there for the reaction of that?
No, I wasn't. I was going back and forth at the time. But he was such a heel up there because he was one of them, and he talked down to them. They actually burnt his plane one night. He was a pilot. He was crazy.
There's another story I've heard, and I think it's probably Ron Wright again. So back in the 70s, I think they must have got the NWA World Champion in, and maybe it was Harley Race or Dory Funk or whoever. And it was the only territory where the audience could not believe that anybody could beat Ron Wright, even the NWA World Champion.
You're absolutely right. They started booing at the 30-minute mark and booed all the way through.
I mean, there's keeping yourself strong, and then there's Superman.
He was Superman too.
Jimmy Valiant.
One of the nicest human beings on God's earth.
Definitely. Next one, I'll ask. God, I've got so many. Blackjack Mulligan.
One of the most imposing athletes I've ever seen. He was very, very kind to me. He's the one that got me over before Dusty. He was very nice to me, and he let me stiff Barry when he was a young boy all the time.
How did he specifically get you over?
When I wrestled Barry on TV for the Florida title, and we went 56 minutes because the title was vacant. And I went to leg dive Barry at like the 50-minute mark, and Barry stepped out of the way, and I fell out of the ring, and Barry held the ropes up, and I got in. Then for the finish, Barry went to do it for me. I stepped out of the way. He ended up, I held the ropes up when he walked in. I kicked him in the face and beat him. Well, the following Sunday, it was when I was there, my program was I was a baby face, but I hated the Mulligans hated me. The Wyndhams hated me. And I got to Orlando for the first time. I was going to be a heel in Florida, and Blackjack, which we didn't go back and forth to dress rooms back then. And this was in Orlando, they couldn't see. Blackjack said to Dusty, "What do you want to do this match?" It was me against Blackjack. He said, "Let's work a DQ." Blackjack said, "No, what he's going to do is he's going to beat me, leave me laying. Barry's coming down, he's going to leave Barry laying. Kendall's coming down, he's going to leave Kendall coming down." He said, "That big boy, you come down for the save, he's going to leave you laying." So, and then they showed that on TV. I left the whole, which they called the family, I left them all dead, So he was very nice to me.
Yeah. Next name is Haystacks Calhoun, which you've actually wrestled. I had no idea until I read up on this today.
I was his tag team partner. In Florida, I was the Florida tag team partners with Haystacks. And I was also a tag team partner with him in New York. He was at one time a huge attraction way before we got together. I saw him on the tail end. Injuries got to him, illness got to him. But he had been one of the biggest attractions in the mid and late 50s in the wrestling business, in the early 60s. Yeah.
Was he still a draw by the time you were? Was this the early 70s you were tagging back?
He was a little bit of a draw, but he had been around so much, and he's done a stick, which was very limited, but he was better than most to have a look at.
Now, this is someone I don't think I've ever asked of before. Dennis Stamp.
a wild man. Dennis Stamp was a wild man. I mean, he had a different point of view. And I mean, what was that documentary, Beyond the Mat, where Dennis was in it? That was Dennis Stamp. What you see is what you get.
Trampoline bouncing, and he wasn't booked.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Yeah.
You mentioned this fella before, but I wanted to get a bit more information on him. Victor Quiñones.
Very smart guy. Very smart guy. Well-to-do. Had a few hotels he owned with different partners. He got along in the Puerto Rican territory running opposition, which is unheard of. I kind of think there might have been an offshoot to keep other opposition out of there. He went to FMW, then he split off of Wings. He passed way too soon.
Mm-hmm. Next one is Mongolian Stomper.
One of the all-time greats and one of the greatest guys in shape forever. When he ran the Dallas Marathon at 260 pounds.
I remember seeing footage of him in Smoky Mountain when he was like probably Knights of the Legends or something, and he was in his mid-50s, and he still looked like in amazing shape.
Oh, he was. He was amazing shape until he passed. He was obsessive compulsive disorder, CAD carrying member, because when he did something, it was obsessed.
Rick Steiner.
I'll tell you a funny story about Rick Steiner. I knew he had to be a baby face when he was with the varsity club. You know, people were turning him. And I went to Dusty and I said, Dusty, we got to turn him baby face. Can't keep him healed. So we turned, and he turned on me, or I turned on him. So we go to Boston for the first time. And the Detroit Pistons, are you aware of NBA basketball?
Yep.
Detroit Pistons have won the NBA title. So I get with the ring announcer and tell him what to say. So I said, Rick, you're going out first tonight. He said, why? I said, because I want you to start hooting and hollering. And Marvin Hagler, the fighter, the welterweight champion, was in the front row. And I said, get the people going. I said, this is going to be easy. So Rick starts to come out and he's doing that. Ooh, ooh, ooh. And the whole building's doing that. And the ring announcer says, and coming down the aisle, the dog-faced gremlin from the home of the new NBA world champions, the Detroit Pistons. Building turned on him like that. He gets in, the building's booing. I come down the aisle, and the announcer says, and Boston's own Kevin Sullivan from the home of the greatest franchise in the history of the NBA, the Boston Celtics. I'm a babyface. First spot, he takes me, shoots me in the ropes, and he gives me a clothesline. I do Linda Blair. You know, The Exorcist, my head goes around, and I get knocked out of the ring. I pull myself up, and who am I looking at? Marvin Hagler. I said, hey, brother, I need some help. He looked at me and said, not tonight, brother. Great guy.
Who was the crazier of the two, Rick or Scott? Because I think people in the know always said that actually Rick is the really crazy guy.
Yeah, Rick is the real nut. Rick is the real nut. Scott's just a little bit more flamboyant and boisterous. But Rick is certified insane.
Were you? I don't know if you were around the booking office at this time, but just while you were talking about Rick Steiner, I remember a story out of the back of my head where probably Jim Hurd wanted Ric Flair, or maybe it was Dusty Rhodes wanted Ric Flair to lose to Rick Steiner in 5 minutes. Is that true? And can you sort of confirm my half memory?
I don't remember it being Rick Steiner, but I do remember Hurd wanted Flair to lose to Scott.
Ah.
And I think that's where all the heat over those years came from.
Skandor Akbar.
He was a grizzled veteran when I first got in the first NWA territory. Strong guy. Did the craziest bench press I've ever saw, James. He would load up 315, 365 on the floor, pull it up, lay on the bench, pull it up to his chest, bench press, wooden racket, drop it down to his chest, sit up, and put it on the floor. And a very smart wrestling mind, yeah.
Who else am I going to ask? Bullet Bob Armstrong.
Oh, one of the greatest babyface comebacks in his generation. Great. Drew money everywhere he went.
Yeah. Where was the strongholds? Was it Alabama way? Where was the biggest draw? Or
He was a huge draw in Georgia. He was a big draw in Florida too. Big draw in Pensacola. That's where they moved to. And actually, the town's called Gulf Breeze. It's just outside Pensacola. And Alabama, yeah, he was big in the rural South.
Yeah. How big were his arms legitimately? Did you ever find out?
I would say they were 21, right at 21, shade under.
I'll give you maybe three more. I mentioned him. We mentioned him. In fact, you know what? Let's bring up Ernie Ladd again.
I don't know why, but Ernie Ladd really liked me when I was a kid. And he was going to wrestle Bruno in the next. My job when I was there was to get the guy ready for Bruno. And he was going to wrestle Bruno in Madison Square Garden. And like on a Monday, the previous Saturday, we were at Nassau Coliseum. He was wrestling me. It was supposed to be a squash match. And Ernie gave me 90% of the match, put the gimmick on his thumb, gave me the Asiatic spike, covered me, and put his feet on the ropes, and we had a riot. And the local promoters were going crazy because he was going to wrestle Bruno. And he said, "You guys don't even understand the business. If you sat underneath my learning tree, you'd understand that seat." And he was right. He was a great guy. And when I was a kid, I saw him play for the San Diego Chargers. And he was the first professional football player not to keep his helmet on at all times. He wanted that face to be seen all over the TV. Great guy.
Did he wrestle and play NFL at the same time? Well, I think like Wahoo did that, didn't he, as well?
Yeah, Wahoo did it too. Yeah.
Do you know what? Actually, just because this is something that was told to me when you were in the WWF, did you ever get the sense that all of the local guys, and I'll sort of lump you in there as well. I know you're not from New York, but a few hundred miles away northeast. All of the local guys would always be put on the bottom of the card, and they would just never ascend upwards, whereas all the people further afield would do.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to remember about people stealing territories.
Mm-hmm.
I think it has something to do with that too. Yeah.
I'll give you two more, and then I will thank you so much for your time, and we'll say Dr. Death.
What a physical specimen. Wow. And he could run and strong. Oh, he was a great guy. Great guy. But strong. I saw him pick up Terry Gordy, and they did this spot where he picked up Terry and like launched him for like that, like you would have slammed, but Terry landed on a splash on top of the guy when they were partners, and he picked up Terry with one arm, just crossed him, whoop, and Terry had to be 275. Yeah, he was an incredibly strong guy.
And the very last one, I think it'd be nice to end on a fun story about Mike Graham.
Mike and I were very close. We had a love-hate relationship. We were very competitive with one another. But the whole angle when I went to Florida was the Wyndhams in Rotunda and those baby faces were saying I was not the same guy that left Florida, that I was no good. And Mike and other baby faces were saying, you guys shouldn't be talking. Your father was one of the most hated guys in wrestling. So Mike is my cheerleader. And when I told you about Barry, when I kicked him in the face and won the belt, Mike was the ring. He was commentating with Gordon. He goes, what are you doing that? Why did you do that? And I had the belt and I laid it in on him. I mean, I laced him in the face. And I knew we'd get a reaction out of him. I knocked him off the stool because they used to have stools. I knocked him off the stool. His feet went right up in the air. He started running around the desk. But do you remember when they had buttons in the fly Levi's?
It's buttons instead of
rather than a zipper.
Yeah.
He had blown all the buttons. He was trying to chase me, and his pants are falling down, and he's pulling it up. Oh, he was a great guy. On a lot of burden his whole life trying to live up to his father. Very difficult.
Would it? I've heard this said about maybe David Sammartino, a couple of other guys like that. Would it have behooved Mike Graham to go to another territory under an assumed name? Do you think that would have benefited him more?
Absolutely. And there was I don't want to say curse, but there was some kind of gene that wasn't right in that family. Eddie's father committed suicide with a gun. Eddie did. Mike's son did. Mike did. And then Eddie's brother did. That is not normal.
No, it's a terrible, a terrible legacy to leave in that sense. And it's also quite similar to the Von Erichs as well in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.